Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about tricep strength and the bench press lockout and some misconceptions about it. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Alright, this is something that gets talked about a lot, and this is where we get into these complications between raw bench pressing and equipped bench pressing. And for the vast majority of you out there who aren't going to compete in powerlifting at all, see where I'm going with this. You're all going to be raw benchers. And you're going to use the raw style of benching if you're using the bench press for overall hypertrophy because it works better for building up things like your chest and everything. So obviously you're going to be pause benching. You're going to be touching your chest. You're going to be doing those things. And so this is an important thing to factor in because ultimately if you're using the bench press as a primary chest hypertrophy exercise, you're going to have to get strong at it for it to work. It's not an exercise that you can be weak at and get really good results as far as development goes, at least for most people. So what a lot of people come up with is this idea that tricep strength is what's most important for the lockout at the top. And the logic behind this, before we get into where it came from in equipped benching, is that you don't feel your chest that much at the top. In other words, because of the biomechanical position, there is not much chest involvement at the top. And the reason for that is that your chest has such a massive leverage advantage. It has such a massive leverage advantage on about the last 4 to 6 inches of the lockout that it's capable of, while recruiting the same amount of muscle fibers, it's capable of lifting your 1 rep max for probably 12 or 15 reps. Or more in that range of motion, right? And anyone who doesn't believe me, go do some board presses or get inside of a power rack and set the pins up, right? Figure out what you think your rough max is. If you can max 300 pounds on the bench and you get and set up pins in a power rack and you get to where you only do the last 4 to 6 inches, so you only move the bar about 4 to 6 inches, and you get warmed up a bit, I think you're going to be shocked at how much you can lift for 3 or 4 reps off those pins. It's not going to be just 400 pounds. Even though your max off your chest is 300, you're going to be shocked. A lot of you guys are going to be like, wow, I can actually lock out 500 pounds for reps when you only have to move it a few inches. So the idea people get there from this stuff, because that really also, you really feel that in your triceps a lot. But hopefully guys can see where I'm about to go with this, because they had this idea that the triceps are then working harder at the top because this lockout work, you really feel it in your elbows, all your tendons up here, but that's because you're putting more weight on your elbows and on your tricep tendons than you would ever do with a full range of motion. In other words, if you're doing board presses or lockouts with 100 pounds more than you have ever benched off your chest, and you're doing it for work sets and reps, obviously you're going to feel your elbows more because your elbows usually can't really handle weights extremely heavier than your maxes, particularly for volume, right? Because you're doing volume with this. People come in and do 3 sets of 5 with a weight 100 pounds more than their max on lockout work. Yeah, that's going to inflame the connective tissue. It's going to beat your elbows up and they think they're feeling it in their triceps, or you're feeling it in your tendons and joints. And no, that's not good for your joints to do that. At least not for any appreciable amount of volume. So they're thinking, oh, it's all tricep, right? So my triceps are working. But let me ask you the question. Are your triceps not working at the bottom? Look at the bottom of a bench press. Look how much your arms bend. Look how much the triceps get stretched at the bottom of a bench press. You're telling me that tricep strength doesn't matter at the bottom? If you have weak triceps, you're not going to bench anything out of the bottom. If your triceps are the weak link and they're really weak and overpowered by your chest, you're probably not going to bench a lot of weight from the bottom because the triceps get put into a stretch position there. There's a lot of muscle fiber recruitment at the bottom. It might be slightly different heads. It'll be a different emphasis than the lockout. But your triceps get worked. Arguably, we could create an argument for the fact that they might require more muscle fiber recruitment at the bottom. So triceps aren't just about the lockout strength. The only reason people say that is because the chest doesn't have to work that hard. But here's the thing. The chest doesn't have to work that hard to move the same weight. It is so much easier to add 100 or more pounds at the top because the chest doesn't have to work hard. It has a massive leverage advantage that allows it to move more weight up at the top than it can further down, while recruiting the same amount of muscle fibers to do it. But here's the thing. You're capable of doing it. That should tell you something. So how strong do your triceps really need to be to move your normal 1 rep max through the lockout? If you can already come in and add 100 or 200 pounds to your 1 rep max on a lockout with a board press or pressing out of a rack, aren't your triceps already strong enough to lock the weight? Is more tricep strength necessarily going to help you there? No. More tricep strength might help you at the bottom, because the faster you can get the weight moving, the easier the lockout's going to be. Because that's what ends up happening. That's the reason people miss lockouts on the raw bench press, is because their chest and triceps aren't strong enough to get it started out of the bottom. It starts moving really slow and they hit maximum muscle fiber recruitment halfway up, or 3 inches off the chest. They don't have anything left to drive through with, what should be easy for them, because they've already maxed out the muscle fibers at the bottom at the hard part. There's nothing left. Getting stronger at the top's not going to help, because you're already strong enough to do that fresh. You need those muscle fibers that are going to get it started out of the bottom to get stronger. But tricep work will do that. And the reason this becomes a big point of contention of what is an equipped bench press, and you guys got to remember, raw bench pressing came back in within my lifetime, our lifetimes for most of us, but for a long time there was only equipped powerlifting. So a lot of dogma came out of that world that doesn't apply to how the vast majority of people are going to bench press for every other goal, whether it's raw powerlifting, whether it's just physique building, whether it's training for football, whatever it happens to be. The shirt makes it a tricep exercise because the chest doesn't have to do as much work. The actual bench press shirt replaces most of the work that the chest does, because that gets the weight started out of the bottom. It essentially turns the bench press into just a lockout. And in that situation, the triceps really are the only muscle that has to do a tremendous amount of work, at least relative to its own strength. That's why these guys practice tons of lockout work. That's why they practice all this tricep building, because in a equipped bench press with a shirt on, the triceps are the most important muscle. They are the primary mover, more so than any other muscle. So strong triceps, and particularly triceps that are strong in that range of motion, matter. That is the case to where if your max bench off your chest is only 300 pounds with a pause, getting stronger with 500 of the lockout for a bunch of work is going to improve your bench. Why? Because you're probably going to bench more than 500 with the shirt on. And so you need your triceps, because the triceps don't get extra help from the shirt near the top. You need your triceps to be capable of locking 550 or 600 pounds. That's why that gets done by equipped lifters, and that's why there's this whole emphasis on lockout training. Really, for everyone else, has no place in there. And believe me, guys, your triceps get worked just as hard at the bottom on a heavy bench press as they do at the top. They're not doing more work at the top. Just because the chest finds it easier, you need to remember the whole exercise is easier. The chest is still contributing to that lockout. It's still contributing, but it just doesn't have to work that hard anymore. But it's still moving the weight. It's just, it has a lever from, again, the leverage is involved. It just has an easier time moving the weight. So yeah, the triceps might still be doing a lot of work all the way up, but that doesn't change the fact that the chest is still contributing. And it doesn't change the fact that you're still going to be limited by the weights you can do through the full range of motion you're going to be doing. So at the end of the day, having stronger triceps is not going to help your lockout on the raw bench beyond what it contributes to the entirety of the lift, because they are still a primary mover. Yeah, they matter. They do matter. And, you know, getting really strong triceps might add 10 pounds to your raw bench press. It might even add more, doing extra tricep work for a lot of people. In some cases, yeah, I could definitely see it along a really strong person. It could definitely be more than 10 pounds. But it's not because it's contributing to the lockout strength. It's because it's strong triceps will contribute to the entirety of the lift, including starting from the bottom. And the faster you can get it started from the bottom, the more weight you're going to be able to lift. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And we need to not get this stuff confused with the equipped lifting world, because that doesn't apply to bench press for any other goal, which is well over 99% of all people who try to bench heavy. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.